So, afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the ARC Logos podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Anita Pinto Young, and with me today are
Rose Tebere.
And I'm Sherelle Wilson Morrison.
Okay. So this podcast is a well-being podcast that we've launched as a way of talking to people about well-being. So who am I, for example? I'm a well-being coach, trainer, facilitator, speaker, presenter, do some singing as well. Rose, I don't know if you want to talk a bit about yourself.
Yes, I'm a teacher, presenter, facilitator, and a mother of 4. Oh, and I'm a performance coach as well. I keep forgetting
Can't forget that, Rose.
I
Can't
know,
forget that.
I know.
Yeah. That sounds good. And so obviously that brings me on to myself. I'm the C of ARC Logos, and a part of me, I'm also a personal and professional development coach. I'm a teaching consultant, and although I'm not a singer, I like to think that I can hold a bit of a note, and I like to dance. And recreationally, I play basketball.
Don't listen to the singing, guys.
I don't think my singing's that bad.
Rose, what do you think?
I'm not going to say a thing.
The pause.
Okay. So what are we doing here, guys? Like, how did we get here?
It's a good question, actually. Just can you imagine? I just remember having a conversation, and then wasn't it our old manager that actually came up with the idea and said, you guys should actually start a podcast.
Yeah.
And then look where we are now.
And why did she say that again?
Gosh,
It's because of the banter.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
And that's what we're hoping to achieve
Yes.
on here as well.
Yeah, I think she observed the dynamics between us, sort of how we communicate, the ease at which we communicate, the sort of banter between us. Yeah. And because we're always poking fun at each other.
Oh, always.
She just thought, you guys, I think first she said, you guys should do Google Box.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And we were like, nah. And then she said, oh, what about a podcast? And we were like,
Yeah.
So we kind of ruminated over it a bit and been planning for a couple of months now.
Couple of months. And
Yeah, and I think we have a lot to say, don't we? We do.
I think we do.
Yeah.
Hopefully it all makes sense.
Yeah.
somehow we'll bring it all together, and it will have to make sense.
Yeah. So I think what we decided today was that we would talk a bit about our career journeys. Did we all forget to mention that we're social workers?
We actually did.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's a reason for that, because we don't want to make it seem like it's a social working podcast, because it clearly isn't going to be. Although we'll touch in on it, but I just don't think I want that to be the main focus.
Okay, fair enough. Sherelle has spoken.
But we all agreed. I thought we agreed that.
Yeah, I mean, I think because we're trained social workers, it is a part of our lived experience. It is a part of
absolutely.
sort of what informs who we are. But I think the focus of this podcast is more around coaching, well-being, focusing on our work as speakers, presenters, facilitators. And so we're going to talk a bit about our career journeys, and I'm going to put Rose on the spot to start.
Yes.
Wow. Mine is a long, long story. We'll be here until the cows come back.
Rose, make it short.
All right, I will. Yes. I think mine started from secondary school. I'd always wanted to be a social worker, but unfortunately in Uganda, we only had one university that took 35 students. I still remember to this day, and this is over 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I did not meet the criteria. I was in the 35, unfortunately. So I got into teaching, which was my second
Okay.
option. And I think I first experienced teaching in a nursery school, actually. It was my mom's my mom was a head teacher, and she asked me to help her. And it was then that I realized that there's a lot more to teaching. It takes a lot. It
does.
A lot of thought does go into teaching, the preparation, the planning. And yes, I got my my degree in teaching.
Yeah.
And had my practice teaching at King's College, Budo.
Here?
No, in Uganda. In Uganda, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And my first teaching assignment was at Namilyango College. And I will never, ever forget that day. It was my wake-up call and welcome to adult life.
Yeah.
It was a boys' boarding school. And I turned up at the school at night at about 9 p.m. and the boys had just finished having their prep studies and we're going to their dormitories at night. Then my housing was not ready yet and I was put up in the sick bay, and through the windows they saw, my goodness, there's a girl in the school. There's a girl in the school. And I'll never forget the uproar, and the prefects had their work cut out that night to just contain the boys. So that was,
it sounds like a superstar. Like, she's here. She's
No, but remember, it's a group of teenage
boys,
secondary school.
And Rose would have been young at the time, coming in.
Yes, I was 22.
As a teacher. And oh my gosh, there's a female.
Yeah. I see that.
That was funny. That was funny. And another cringe moment I'll never, ever forget. I need to tell you this story. We were driving into town in the school bus. It was packed with boys. They started singing and chanting my name.
Do you remember? Yeah.
They were singing and chanting your name.
Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to give an example of that, Rose?
You're going to sing the song?
Yeah. Yeah, they were singing. Tebere wa fe tumwagala nyo mama. Tebere wa fe tumwagala kufana kuona. Something like that. It was, I'll never forget.
I love it when when you say words or phrases in your language.
Absolutely.
It's
And what were they saying?
so
What does that mean
beautiful.
for us English speakers?
It means, our Tebere, we love her to death.
Oh, that's so
But
nice.
it was so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing.
But you remember it though, Rose.
I know. And
it's some of the
it's
highlights.
the first time actually I'm talking about this, so I've never ever. It was that embarrassing.
But it's a great story. And I feel like in a way I had a similar journey into social work in that, I think it was different for me. Whereas you wanted to do social work, I wanted to do law. But in Jamaica, there was one law school. And in order to get into that law school, you probably had to be like top of your class. And how it worked is that you would do a year law in Jamaica and then do 2 years in Barbados.
Wow.
So you also needed a lot of money as well for your parents to be able to fly you out to Barbados, pay for your accommodation there. And it wasn't a degree that you could do part-time. So because I was working in a charity where the director was a social worker, I was doing community development work. I thought, okay, let me do social work. And that's how I ended up And my first job was teaching in a basic school as well, because my dad was the board for a basic school and I taught there for about a year. Loved the kids, but I went home with a headache every day because it was just a lot. How did you start, Sherelle?
See, that's not as exciting as both your experiences.
Come on.
But I'm not limiting it. I'm just saying, so just to kind of set myself up on that. Similarly to Rose, actually, I wanted to become a teacher. So I remember from as little as whatever, I used to have like my own little teddy bears. And I used to have a little register. And I used to call, this is so sad, but I used to call each name.
It's not sad.
Because I was talking to myself.
But you were a child. Come on.
It kind of extended into teenage years, just saying. But I used to have a little register.
Psychotherapy.
See, she's starting the banter already. But so I used to have my little register. I named all my teddy bears different names. And then I would literally have like a roll call their names. And I even would say here in different voices. And I used to change my handwriting to kind of practice.
Wow.
I wanted to be a teacher. So
That is so
fast forward,
funny.
I know, can you imagine? Fast forward to like years down the line when I've gone to university, I remember thinking, I want to be an educational psychologist because it's a mixture of my first degree, which was psychology, and then mixture of me wanting to be a teacher. So I thought, this could be it. Didn't go down that route because I just felt like it was very competitive to get on the doctorate. It's very limited spaces, like 10 or 15 per unis, and there was about maybe 4 or 5 based in London. And I know I didn't want to go outside of it. So what were my other options? And kind of fell into social work through working in mental health services.
That's a very funny story though about talking
but
to
the
the
teddy bears.
dog.
I knew you would say
But
that.
I suppose you grew up kind of like an only child, as in your older sibling was how many years older?
He's 12 years older than me.
Yeah, so it was probably normal in that you were on your own. So kind of giving you that as you're okay.
It's a hush hush. Don't get me started about wanting sisters. So let's not even get it onto that topic. But social work.
Just to tell you how I got into social work then, I relocated to London, and it was then that I thought, okay, I'm in London now. Let me test out teaching. and I asked to volunteer in a primary school, and I'll never ever forget that experience. In a classroom of 25 with 3 adults, when the children were doing some activity, water-based activity, they actually flooded the class, and I was thinking, oh no, my goodness. Back in Uganda, as a teacher, I had 79 children in my class.
Wow.
Yeah. And here I was in London. We had 25 kids, and we struggled with containing that class. So that was my first experience of school in London. And I remember I thought, let me go and visit secondary school.
Okay.
And because, of course, I was meant to be, I trained as a secondary school teacher, and that's where I should be. But I was shocked by the behaviors, the culture. And to make it worse, I remember the headmaster then said, oh, you've got to get a postgraduate diploma for you to teach in Britain. So I thought, all right, let me try adult education. I attended a training course, a 1-week adult education training course, and guess what? You remember Balmash Prison had just opened at the time.
I don't know.
So
Prison,
it's a high security prison in Plumstead.
Yeah.
So I applied to go there.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got to Balmash, and the inmates had not yet, it was a newly built prison, but I'll never ever forget that experience. I walked in there and thought, wow, the cells actually have their own toilets, and I'm thinking, this is so much better than our university halls back in Uganda.
Rose, were they chanting your name as well when you were there?
No.
Okay,
No, there are no inmates. But anyway, they never called me
Rose,
back.
sing
so
that song for us again. Please.
No, please, don't put me through.
That song for me again. I want to hear it.
Rose is in mid-deep conversation.
Sorry.
Maybe she'll sing it after.
Yeah, so that was the end of my teaching career in Britain. I just decided, no, I'm going to apply for a job in social care.
Okay.
Just from that experience, you thought social care was your calling?
Because I didn't get to hear back from them.
Oh, okay.
I'd applied. We were called to the prison to look around, and I thought, yes, this is going to be my next move. I'm going to teach in a prison, but it never happened. They never got back to me. Yeah.
So from there, you trained in social work?
Not really. I worked for about 9 years with adults with mental health.
Okay.
And learning disabilities before then applying for the social work course. And even that in itself, I applied to Middlesex University. They turned me down, did not honor my degree at all.
Wow.
And that was for a master's program at Middlesex University. South Bank accepted me, and Goldsmith, which was only 10 minutes walk from my home, called me for an interview and offered me the job. And I got accepted at Goldsmith. And little did I know then that, wow, that was such a good university to actually have my training in. So I was, and that just shows you how God orders your steps. Because
Amen.
I'll never forget, because the application was just a simple A4 paper and an interview, and it was not even an interview; it was more an informal conversation. Yeah. And compared to Middlesex, that turned me down flat. They did not honor my degree, and I'll never forget that.
Yeah. When you said the application, was it pen and paper, or was it you had laptops and stuff?
Oh no, pen and paper.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
I had to clarify, Rose.
I think when I applied to do my degree, I had to write pen and paper as well.
Yeah.
I think so. What year did you do your degree?
Wow, that's telling now.
Testing,
1999 is when I did my master's at Goldsmith.
I wasn't born.
1999.
Liar.
I identify as being younger than what I am, so I was not born.
In 1999,
I was not born.
Oh, gosh.
See, I didn't. All our applications was through a system called UCAS. And then you'd put your personal statement on there. You click what unis you wanted to apply to, and it just basically went out
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
years
but
later.
not pen and paper.
I don't remember how. I mean, I think, like I said to you guys, in Jamaica there was one university there were two universities that did social work. There was the University of the West Indies. I think there was a Northern Caribbean University that did social work, but I wanted to go to the University of the West Indies. It was like the top university in Jamaica and the Caribbean. So I applied there and I didn't apply anywhere else.
Okay. Oh, just one place.
I just applied there.
So you knew in your heart of hearts, this is where I'm going.
Do you know what? Maybe it was crazy. Maybe it was faith. Maybe it was me saying it's UE. And that's what we call it, UE, University of the West Indies. So I remember applying. I remember doing a personal statement. I can't remember now if I typed it or I hand wrote it. And I remember having to do an interview. And I remember getting in. And I remember getting in and thinking, what do I do now? What was you?
I'm trying to think. So just to clarify, both your experiences, you done the application, had an interview, and that was that?
And that was
Yes,
that. And then
that
you
was
heard
that.
back.
So my experience when I applied, once we got shortlisted, we had to come in for like an assessment centre day. So we had role play, we had a panel interview, and then we also had a test.
Oh, gosh.
Listen, they wanted everything out of us to make sure that, are you the right people for it? So this was a master's that I was going for. And I just remember seeing some of the faces around me, and apparently they had about 3 or 4 different intakes throughout the year. And I think I was maybe intake number 3, sorry. So if I wasn't successful, then they had opportunity to try again. But I was like, I'm doing it once and once only. And I remember just turning up not knowing anybody. So remember, I've gone to university knowing pretty much a lot of people. Now to go into a new environment. And there was some people that I gelled well with. And funny enough, the ones I gelled well with also got onto the course. And they're still my friends to this day. So, but that was the process. It was long-winded. And yeah, I just remember thinking it was a whole day.
Yeah, a lot has changed with social work courses these days, because in my time I remember, and I'm sure you could only do it as a mature student.
Yeah, they had those.
21
in
up
1990s.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I was already a mum of 2.
By the time you went to study.
To do my master's,
Well,
yeah.
that was your
Yeah.
second career because
Yeah,
you've done
yeah.
teaching before.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
that.
So from Makerere University, where I did my teaching, I then came here to Goldsmith for my
Goldsmiths and did that.
master's. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I often feel like my career started before social work because I worked in Jamaica in a charity at the time called Coalition for Community Participation in Governance.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
A mouthful. So it was called the Coalition for Community Participation in Governance.
Okay.
And the whole idea was around supporting local grassroots communities, doing consultations with them around government processes. So some of it was about how we would translate down national policies to the grassroots level in a language that people could understand, get them to get involved, and then feed it back up to the government.
Wow.
So I remember the 2 founders of that company were Horace Levy, who's still a lecturer at the University of the West Indies. Hey, Horace. And Lynette Vassell, who was a well-known feminist in Jamaica and also like a social development consultant at the time. So working with them, including Joan Grant, Judith Wedderburn, people like Hermione McKenzie, Joan Brown, who are all part of like social activists in Jamaica and being so involved in social activism. And law would have fit into that well, like I said, but because it wasn't accessible, I thought, social work would be good. But all the while I was studying, I was working at that charity.
Okay.
Because they gave me the support to attend classes. Like, it was kind of like just going back and saying, oh, here are my dates for my classes. And it was like, yeah, fine, we know you're doing school. And it was a very supportive environment. So those women and Horace, to this day, are still my mentors. And some of the things that I enjoyed about that job is it was also some international development work as well. So getting the opportunity to fly to South Africa for a World Conference Against Racism, Racial Xenophobia Related Intolerances in 2001. Being part of that movement around anti-racism, where there was people like Thabo Mbeki, Fidel Castro, Nelson Mandela, Winnie Mandela, and other international conferences as well. So I always value, though it was 8 years, I always value those 8 years of my career has sort of the building blocks, the foundation.
Yeah.
And it was when I was trained in a lot of advocacy work. And I think that's where I developed my values around social justice, activism, advocacy, support for people. And so even in my work in social work, it's something that I've carried with me, just that ethos of wanting to help people to develop. And I think as well, part of why I got into training in that job as well, we did a lot of training, a lot of community facilitation. So we'd go into communities, we'd, have workshops, we'd have trainings, a lot of conferences and events. So yeah, and learning from Horace Levy then around PLA, so participatory learning and action, people like Francis Madden who was doing PLA as well. And that's what fed into social work. And then in 2011, somebody reached out to me on Facebook and said, we're recruiting for social workers in the UK. Would you like to come? I remember at first thinking, is this a hoax? But I initially thought, I'm not sure because I just got married. But I prayed about it, felt led, applied, came to the UK 2011, and been here since then, practicing social work.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And it's so funny. I'm just thinking back at the start of this. I was like, yeah, we're not going to talk about social work. But you made a valid point, Anita. It's what's kind of, for some of us, has been part of our journey.
Yeah.
And we've continued that journey as a collective anyway. So it is important to kind of recognize that. Absolutely. But it's interesting to hear about both your experiences, especially from being outside the UK. And obviously now you're both in the UK. I just wanted to throw it out there. How have you found that transition?
I don't know. Maybe if I could just wondering what informed my interest in social work. And when I look back, I think I actually followed in my mother's footsteps, because my mom started as a nursery teacher, and she then worked for a code. It was a non-governmental organization, and it was more community-based social work, I would say. I think it's that must be what informed my interest in social work, because it's not something that not quite known as it is now, social work as a career in Uganda, but there were, and I think the course that offered it was social work with public administration. So there was an addition to it. Yeah. So I was really glad to get the opportunity to come here actually do the social work, because there's something in me about the need to work with and support people. And that's something I think I learned from my mom.
Wow.
Oh, that's so nice, Rose. That's so nice. What about you?
The transition?
Yeah.
Culture shock.
Yes.
Definitely.
I mean, I think, whereas Rose came here to teach, came with her family, settled down, then did social work. I was a trained social worker, and I was working in the government. So I'd left the charity because of funding, joined the government sector, was there for about 2 years. And I think this offer came at a good time, where I felt like I needed a change. But yeah, it was a culture shock. I remember coming here by myself. The first 3 months were quite depressing.
What was it, the weather, or you just mean just coming into?
I think it's because I remember coming at first, and there were issues around visa, home office. So my husband didn't come with me at the time, so I was by myself. And I mean, I'm from a big family, so my parents are still married. I have 8 siblings, and being at home, you're used to being around people.
Right.
I feel like I had a really good network. Like I said, people that I mentioned who are my mentors are people that I've worked with. They're still friends. So if I go to Jamaica now, we will see each other. Nice. So I feel like I had a really solid network. And coming here, it felt like you were a fish out of water.
Okay.
And I think it took maybe about a year or two for people to warm up with you. I think the culture in England is...
yes, go on.
I think people are probably a bit cautious when it comes to, people from overseas. I wouldn't say it's xenophobia necessarily, but I think people are quite cautious. And I think it takes a little while for people to warm up to you. So I think it took it took about. I mean, my husband joined me after 6 months, which was brilliant.
Nice.
And he's been a real solid rock for me. But the first 3 months were hard. I came in winter as well.
That's definitely hard.
I
then.
came in February. Oh my gosh, the cold, figuring out heating, gas central heating versus electric heating. Who knows what that is? Double glazed windows. What is that?
I've been born and bred here, and I'm still trying to figure out myself.
And even the food, everything it was. After 3 months, it was hard. But what I had to do was join the gym, got myself a laptop. We just listen to music every night. Worship music. Got myself a mobile phone. At the time, it was BlackBerry Messenger.
Oh yes.
And if I felt a bit flat, I would just start messaging all of my siblings, just messaging everybody in my family. And sometimes just getting those messages back was that reassurance that, it's going to be okay. Or people that came here with us that I knew, I'd say, can we go walk about? So we just go walk together around the mall. And those things helped in the first couple of months.
Wow.
What about your journey into?
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to think. So I qualified in 2013. From what I can remember. And I've always had that sense of wanting to help others, I think. I've always had that interest, obviously starting from being a teacher, wanting to be a teacher, and having the teddy bears, as we talked about earlier on. But
can we recreate that scene one day?
We are not doing that. Because I know exactly how that would unfold, and we are not going to do that.
No, I think it would be a good thing for us to do direct work with kids. No, actually, no.
So you mean direct work with me?
No. I mean, we could actually recreate that and use it as it is one. I think people like Professor Shemmins, who does Adam's training and dolls and attachment, and they actually use dolls, teddy bears, to do play therapy with children.
So you mean to do it with others, not so much with myself? Or you want to create it in this environment?
I could do it with you as well, but I meant with children.
Are you trying to social work me? You're starting already.
I meant with children.
So just so you know, Rose, you need to kind of come in, help me.
No, it's fine. I'll behave.
So you say, let's see how long that lasts. But yeah, no, I don't think there's any much more to add, really. I just felt, previously, I almost fell into law, actually, which is funny because when it comes to reading legislation and stuff like that, don't come to me. Yeah. So I've got quite a few similarities with both of you. Yeah. So back in secondary school, so this is how far back we're going, they did a program within the borough that I was based in. So it was Greenwich, and it was opened out to all other boroughs within the UK. And what they did is they put the top few students and they kind of sold it as, there's going to be an opportunity to train and we'll get you through the degree and you'll become a lawyer. So, I thought, okay, I'll apply for it. And then you had to go through interviews. It got whittled down. I mean, I can't remember exactly how many, but they only needed to find, I think it was maybe top 3 or 4. So it wasn't many, but there was lots of us that applied. And I got through to the final stages.
You were really bright then.
Yeah. I still am. Just saying. Got through to the final stages, and I was now at sixth form, and they said to me, okay, you need to make sure you study government and politics. You've got to make sure you have English literature and language. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. Done everything. And they were like, okay, you have to cut down on your social life. And then I was like, oh,
Sherelle and cutting down social life. That is not going to happen.
They were like, you need to get rid of they said to my mum, you need to get rid of the TV out of her room and replace it with just law books. She needs to eat, sleep and repeat law.
You were not going to do that.
Think about it. I'm 16, 17 now. And I'm like,
Even at this age, you're not doing that. You're born in 1999 again.
Yes, exactly. See, so being born in the 90s, it's, very young. Just made it in, almost in the 2000s. But I thought, okay, I'll do it reluctantly, but unfortunately it didn't work out. So
why did it not work out, Sherelle?
So funny enough, it wasn't even on me. Okay. They offered it off to another young person who apparently they had a background in law, so great grandparents, fathers, forefathers, and so forth were lawyers.
Because you were made for something else, something.
Thank you.
Yeah, all things work together for good.
They do.
But also, when you describe it, knowing your personality, that sounds like a nightmare for you.
Yeah. I could have done that. No friends, no socials.
Really?
No.
Reading books.
No, Sherelle.
You know what makes me laugh though? It's so funny. So I recently joined a book club, right?
Yeah.
And I'm struggling.
Are you confessing now? They're gonna be watching.
They're gonna watch this, and they're gonna be like,
They're gonna know.
they're gonna know, but I need to get this off my chest. I feel like we're in a safe space.
You're gonna get it off your chest.
We're in a safe space.
Oh my! In a podcast.
All I'm
Sherelle.
gonna say is audiobooks are the way forward. Because if
yeah.
it wasn't for
Love
audiobooks,
audiobooks.
most of
Love
the books that
audiobooks.
we have picked in this group,
Yeah.
would they have been read?
I know.
I can't say.
Yeah.
I know.
I really can't
I
say.
know.